afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to be reviewing Karen's Poshmark closet. If you guys are interested in purchasing a closet review or an eBay store review, the link will be down below. And I recently just changed the website link, so make sure you are going to the Linktree and clicking on the new store link, which should be updated. But Karen had a Poshmark closet that she would like to review, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, so sorry if I do, but I think it's Karen Lee & Co, unless it is Lion Co. But either way, thanks for asking us to review your Poshmark closet, Karen, and I did take note as to what your biggest concerns were, and I'm going to try to cater this review to some of those. So first of all, just looking at your overall closet, I really love it. I think you've got a great brand. I know that you do some things on the side. She does a lot, guys. She's got an Instagram. She is a makeup artist. I even saw here you have a link to your blog, so you guys can go check her out, and I'll put that information down in the description box in case you want to check it out. But I love your entire brand and what you stand for. I think it's really cool, and I love that you're able to kind of incorporate fashion into that through Poshmark. And I think it's actually going to be really good for your sales on Poshmark, because I think your following might come over here and I love the banner. I think it is neat and presentable. I like that you have a profile picture of yourself. Again, very friendly, clean, presentable. And just overall, that's the whole vibe of your closet, which I really appreciate. Let's see. I went to your About Me section. By the way, I also appreciate that you offer a discount. Having this tag on your closet immediately is going to let buyers know that you're willing to bundle items at a discount for them, and it can take a lot of the work off of you because they're automatically going to be able to get that discount, and it's just nice to have on your closet. So I was really happy to see that, especially since it does look like you just started your closet not that long ago. So on your About Me section, I took a little look-see through here. So average ship time is same day, which is crazy insane. You have a really fast ship time. Usually within like next day or within 2 days, I think is pretty good, but same day, I haven't seen that in a while, so that's awesome. You're also pretty active. I saw a couple things being shared even as I was, going through your closet and review it. So good to know that you are active. It's also good for your buyers to be able to see this information and have a little bit of trust with you. I did take a look at your love notes. You only had 4, so I don't have much to go off of. And again, you're pretty new to reselling on Poshmark, so I didn't expect there to be a lot. But from what I read, I got the impression that you were a fast shipper and a lot of item as described. So again, I know that you're pretty new, but those are great comments to kind of be on the lookout for, because you can really lean into what you're good at and just add to your brand. So you could be adding that, Karen's closet is fast shipping, and every time she lists an item, I know it's going to be exactly as it's described. So I think those are all great things and a really great start. All right, diving in to your actual closet, I did take a lot of notes in each category, and I'll be sure to share those notes with you when I send you the video link. Just looking at your photos, again, everything looks bright, clean, and clear, and lots of details on your items, I noticed. So every picture that you have, you're showing a lot of details, you're getting a lot of angles, you're making sure to include the tags and even the material tag, which I think is really important. So you do a really nice job on photos. Again, clean, clear photos, and all of the ones that I looked at, you included a lot of up-close details. So your photos are like phenomenal, top-notch. Highly recommend, and love that you include the material tag. There were a couple of them I noticed you had some stock photos on, and they did not seem to be the first photo, which is good, but there were a couple that did have stock photos on them. I'm not telling you not to use them. I'm not telling you to use them, but I would just say be cautious about it. I know you mentioned to me when you sent me the email with your questionnaire filled out that you were considering going on other platforms. Poshmark is very lenient about stock photos. However, some other platforms are not. And who's to say that Poshmark isn't going to crack down on it soon? So I would just advise against stock photos in general if you can help it. You've got really great photos, so I personally don't see the need for them. I even saw some where you were modeling the dresses or the items. Fantastic. Love that. Love a modeling photo, and that could be what you could use instead of a stock photo. And I think that you modeling them really help to sell the item. I do know it can be time consuming, however, to model items, but if you feel that an item desperately needs a stock photo, maybe consider modeling them instead, because I think that can make a big difference and also save you as far as getting in trouble on some of these platforms, especially eBay. Next up were titles, and I know titles are something that you discussed in the email with us. You weren't really sure how to structure them. I took a look at a lot of your titles, and in general, I would say you do have really good titles. You seem to use all, if not most, of the characters. So just a shout out, make sure as many words as you can jam in your title that you use up all of that space. Every single space to put a word is an opportunity for you to sell the item to your buyer. So you want to make sure to include as many keywords as possible. And it does seem like you do that for the most part. You have pretty long titles, seems to fill up most of the space. I honestly don't have much to say about your titles because they are pretty good. A couple things I noticed are be careful about capitalizing words. There were quite a few of them that had the first word for whatever reason capitalized. There's one here with Calvin. I think I saw it on a different one as well. But try not to capitalize words. It doesn't help in search and sometimes can actually deter buyers. I know a lot of times we think it's grabbing attention, but sometimes it can actually be a deterrent for buyers. So I would just keep everything first letter capitalized, the rest of the word lowercase, as you would write a normal title. I don't think you need to capitalize anything to grab attention. As far as structure goes, you can really do whatever you want, but I know that structure was a concern that you had. As far as structure goes with anything, as soon as you can create a structure in your business and stick to it, you're going to make a lot of headway on speed and the amount of stuff that you're going to get done. So I think it's great that you are trying to think about structure for your business so that you can follow one method and move forward. I do agree that if you're jumping between, doing it one way and then the next day you do it a different way, you're never going to get really good at one thing because you're going to be doing it differently every time. So I'm glad to see that you're at least thinking about a structure. There technically is no right or wrong way to do it, but we do it a certain way, and a lot of these platforms have suggested structuring titles a certain way, which is the way we do it, and I'm going to include these in your notes. So my recommended structure for you is the brand, the gender, the item, and you're going to want to keep that pretty simple. So if it is it would be like a Calvin Klein women's top. And then your size, and then any additional keywords. So for example, this one could be Calvin Klein women's even sleeveless top, size large, and then the rest of your keywords. That is how I would structure that. That is my recommended structure, and that's how a lot of these platforms recommend the structure being. So maybe consider that, and I'll include that with your notes, but at the end of the day, it is your business. Great job on using all the characters, and you've also used some just really solid keywords. I was happy to see all of the keywords that you put in there. I think they're really going to help to sell your items. You got some good ones in there and ones that seem to actually describe your item and not just be something like cute or beautiful or something like that. Okay, next up are your listing details, and you have some very, very detailed descriptions, which is good. That's what descriptions are for. I know you were concerned with, you've tried a couple different ways, long and short. How do you structure it? I am going to show you the one that I think is the best and the one that I personally would go with. with a few adjustments. And it is this one right here, which is your Angie one. This one, in my opinion, is about the length it should be and the structure that it should be. But I would change a few things. Let me go back to some of these other ones. There are some here that are just super, super long, and fantastic that you're including all of these details, but some of them I do think are a little unnecessary. So let me go through some of those with you real quick, but just in general, I would say this format is like the best. This is what I would aim for if you were looking for my opinion on the matter. So first up in your listing details, I noticed you had discounted shipping on a lot of things, which is great for the buyer, but I did want to caution you that if you're including discounted shipping on lots of things, that it's really going to eat into your profits, especially on Poshmark, because they already charge a 20% selling fee when your item sells. So just something to consider. If you can offer discounted shipping, great, but you have to, I guess, factor that in to your cost when you are purchasing an item, which I know was another concern of yours, and we'll talk about sourcing here in a little bit, but just really consider that moving forward. I personally choose not to discount shipping because I know it eats into my profits so much, and we sell a lot of $25 items. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be making much money if I include discounted shipping, and I find that my buyers are willing to purchase items without discounted shipping. But if you can work it into your business model, definitely do that. But I know being profitable was a concern of yours, so I wanted to mention it. As far as your details go down here, one note I had was I don't think it's necessary to put the exact same information that was in your title also in the description, at least when it comes to Poshmark. Once it's in the title, I think you're good. I don't think that you need to state the exact same things down here. So maybe something to consider when we're talking about cutting down the amount of stuff that's typed. That could be one thing that could go. Your buyers just read it here. I don't think that they need to read it again here. And then just along those same lines with your listing details, great detail, but consider summarizing it a bit, and also consider which order your buyers are going to see the info. So I'm going to go back to this Angie dress. So this is a perfect example. We could cut out this right here because this is in the title and buyers don't need to double search this. But start thinking about if a buyer sees this item, they look at the pictures, they think they want to purchase it, it's a good price. What is the next thing that they are going to look for? What do you think the first thing they're going to look for in the description is? In my experience, it's always, okay, now I need to check the condition, see if there's flaws, and possibly confirm measurements. And those things are towards the bottom of your details. So these things I would bring to the top. And again, I'll be including these with all of your notes in case you want to do this method, but try to consider prioritizing the most important information, at least at the top of your description. So I would bring your condition, any flaws, and measurements to the top. Then I would include any details that you might have, which you've done a great job, again, with a lot of great keywords that I think could be summarized. I think this right here is a good amount. You got a little bit of a spelling error there. And then at the very end, putting anything just to kind of round out your listing business-wise, super fast shipping. You ship out next business day, all reasonable offers considered. I think that's a great way to finish your listing because you're just bam, 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 hitting the buyer with everything that they need to know, but you're doing it very concisely so that they're actually going to read through the whole thing. So if it were me, I would nix out your title in the description. I would move your condition, your measurements, and any flaws to the top. Then I'd include a couple descriptive things like you have here, and then end with your business policies or whatever you want to call it. As far as these go, I think there are a lot of them that could probably be summarized. For example, like here, a small hidden pocket of the same material is tucked in the back pocket for a credit card or key. Like, we could summarize this by saying hidden pocket. You want to think of what is the buyer actually going to search for that is going to bring them to this listing. And some of these, I think you're just kind of spelling it out in sentence form when we could just type out the keywords, if that makes sense. So 5 pocket design, black shadow is your wash. If someone's searching for that, they're going to see it. They already know it's a jet black wash from your photos. Mid-rise, ultra skinny. I don't personally think you need to explain it that way, but I do understand, since you are a little bit of a creative person, why you're doing that, because you're kind of telling a story about the item. But if you want to get the most work done and you want your buyers to read to the end of the description, I would consider summarizing this a little bit. I don't think that you need to have all of this information in. And I honestly don't think a buyer is going to read all the way through that. So those are my suggestions for you on the listing details. I will include these in your notes as far as that goes. Next, we are going to look at buyer demand. I'm going to exit out of a few of these. So I took a look at your sell-through rate on your closet. A question I had for you is, are some of these items your own? Like, did you decide you were going to sell some of your own items and that's why you chose these, or did you actually source them? I'm seeing a lot of style-based stuff, which again, I think kind of just fits with your brand. When it comes to sourcing, I think what's going to be most beneficial to you based on what you've told me is to pick a model. So are you going to do style-based, or are you going to focus on sell-through rate? Those two things don't usually go hand in hand. I'm seeing a lot of style-based stuff in here. If you want to go style-based, totally fine, but I would expect those items to not have a high sell-through rate and to sit for much longer. And when we kind of talk about that in a minute. So as far as sell-through rate goes, again, you've only been listing these items for about a month, and right now you currently, at the time of recording, have 78 available listings, and you have 12 sold listings, and those listings happened within about the last month. So we're going to include those in your sell-through rate. So 12 divided by 78, you have a little over a 15% sell-through rate, which, congratulations, that's pretty awesome. In general, as an average, most clothing resellers have a 10% sell-through rate. So you're doing fantastic. And again, you just started, so the numbers that we're working with to research are very little data to go off of, but so far you're doing really well. As you are considering your sell-through rate of your total store, just something to keep in mind is if you are selling these items on multiple platforms, which I know you mentioned possibly doing, to just consider that in your sell-through rate. So you might have a 5% on sell-through rate and a 5% sell-through rate on eBay. You're going to want to combine those, which means you have a 10% sell-through rate, if that makes sense. I always like to throw that in there because a lot of people forget that when they go multi-platform. Overall, your pricing looks very reasonable. I would probably price these items the same way that you do. I think, again, they are very, very reasonable. Some might be slightly more, but you also will be accepting offers on Poshmark, so something to consider. I did pull one to do an example of. It is this Angie crisscross halter dress. And something I was going to tell you, I know you had a big concern about sell-through rate and just making sure you're picking up items that you know are going to be profitable, and that, you know, the time you do take to list items, that it's going to be worth your time to get them and to list them. One thing I was going to suggest to you, if you are going to list on Poshmark, is to consider checking your comps on eBay, even though you're selling on Poshmark. It is really difficult to look up comps on Poshmark if you are factoring in sell-through rate, because they do not include the results number at the top of the page, and you would have to physically count out how many you have in order to determine sell-through rate. But on eBay, you don't have to do that. So for an example, you have this Angie dress, you've got it listed for $24. I went and searched this on eBay and I typed in Angie halter dress medium. We've got 18 available results. We're going to go to sold. And now we have 4 sold results. So 4 out of 18. I'd have to do the math on that. Four out of 18 gives you exactly a 22% sell-through rate within 90 days. So a 22% likelihood that your item will sell in 3 months, which the way I kind of look at this is, okay, how would I get to a 100% sell-through rate? I'd have to multiply this by 4. So instead of 3 months, it's going to take me 4 times that amount. So it's probably going to take a year to sell. And that is if you are within market of what everyone else is listing for. So not to say that the item can't sell if you've got a special one, you promote it really well, but more than likely it's going to sit for about a year. So something to keep in mind when you're picking up items is if you want to focus on selling them quickly and getting profits back fast, which it sounds like that might be what you want to do, to heavily consider checking your sell-through rate before you purchase the items. And this would be a great way to do so on eBay because you're going to have the results number right here, and it's going to make it super easy. A lot of the times you're going to have like hundreds of results, and you're going to need to know really quickly how many have sold, and you're not going to sit there and count, 200 items out of counting again 400 items. So something to consider. And when you have something that's already a low sell-through rate, you might also want to factor that into your price. Do you want to be priced what everyone else is at, or if you want to sell it quicker, do you want to price it slightly lower? So something to keep in mind when you're talking about picking up items and how quickly you want to sell them and to be profitable. So my takeaways, or I guess your takeaways, possible takeaways that I have here included on your notes in general is that you're off to a really great start with a solid foundation. It looks like you're really on the right path. You're doing the right things with listings, the right things with photos. It seems like you're starting to get the grasp of what you need to do for sourcing. Highly recommend, as you already stated, picking a listing format, including your title and your details. Once you can determine your format, you're going to be able to just get into a flow of things and be able to jam out listings really quickly because you're not going to be second guessing yourself. So I would pick a format, title format, description format, and I would move on. I would stick with that, give it like a couple of months, see how it works for you. If you still don't like it, maybe consider changing it then, but then give that one a couple months as well. But don't change it every single day or every single week, or you're never going to get, the hang of things. You're never going to get in the flow of listing. So pick a format. And then same thing with sourcing. Pick a format for sourcing if you want to be profitable and sell things quickly. I would consider setting a sell-through rate minimum for yourself as well as a general buy cost and sell cost. So for instance, for us, we want to see 100% sell-through rate within 90 days, which means when we do a comp on eBay, we want to see the exact same number in available that we see in solds, and that's going to tell us that we're probably more than likely, if we list the item correctly and price it correctly, going to sell that item within 90 days. And that has worked really well for us. So I'm able to blow through a lot of items and get money back very quickly. So something to consider. And then having a format, as I mentioned, for your general buy cost and sell cost. For example, we tell ourselves, I will pay $5 to sell for $25. Or you could even say, I will pay up to $7 to sell for as little as $35. But set some parameters for yourself, and it will also help you get into a flow and limit the amount of times that you take risks. And if you can set those boundaries for yourself before you walk into a thrift store, you're going to be much more successful and you're going to be able to say no on things. Again, consider checking those comps on eBay instead of Poshmark, even if you are just going to sell on Poshmark. Speaking of, I know you mentioned possibly selling on multiple platforms. This is just my personal opinion, only because I've done that dance. Don't get on all the platforms at once. Pick one. It looks like you've picked Poshmark. Stick with Poshmark. Master Poshmark. Figure out a way to have sales daily on Poshmark. Figure out the ins and outs of being able to respond to your customers quickly and understanding how it works. And then once you feel like you've mastered it, then go on to another platform like eBay or whatever platform you choose, but trying to go on to too many at once, you're never going to be able to give all of them the attention that they deserve in order to be successful and to be consistent on there. And it sounds like you've already got your hands in a lot of things, with being a makeup artist, you're running a blog, you're running your Instagram, now you're trying reselling. So I would just say, if you were looking for my advice on that, again, just because I've done it and was unsuccessful and had to scale back, is to pick just one, try to master it, and then move forward. And lastly, I know you mentioned listing speed, which is something a lot of newer resellers struggle with. A lot of that just comes with time, but I think definitely once you can determine your structure, then the speed will come, because from there on, it's just practicing, and you're going to get better the more you practice. But you can't practice something if you're constantly changing what you're practicing. So determine your structure first and then start focusing on speed. And I think you're going to see that listing speed come over time. It used to take me an hour to list one item. Now I can list 10, 15, sometimes 20 items from start to finish, including photos, in an hour. So it really just depends, but I was only able to do that over time once I set a format for myself and I stuck with it for some time. So those are all the tips and tricks that I have for you. I will be sending this over to you today. If you have any questions, you can respond to my email. Thanks to everyone watching. I hope that it was helpful, and thank you to Karen for giving us permission to share this on YouTube. If you guys are interested also in a closet review or a store review, again, link to that will be down below. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.